Hi, I'm Edmond, Juicye, Colorado. I want to talk to you about HIV positive and AIDS in America. Something that I, as a black, gay, African American, same gender loving man, would like to tell our people. This is our time to take our health in its hand. For 31 years, our country has battled this illness from ignorance to glory now. And I would like to tell you that coming from the South, seeing the AIDS in Little Rock, Arkansas, where one of my great friends and associates would be locked into his home right off Main Street, off the freeway in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I got to love him and hug him, and I got to see the face that what only few of us had seen was Rock Hudson's face. Thank God for Elizabeth Taylor that she stayed beside him and she helped gather much needed money for research and medicines. Thank God for Michael Jackson that he went to Ryan White and helped him in his bedroom from Indiana, that we got the Ryan White Care Fund for housing. Because we realized 30 years ago, one of the things, along with Project Open Hand and Meals on Wheels, was that people needed diet and food, a place to stay with medicine. And this was the start of taking on something that had come up and was being broadcast as an illness to wipe and punish people who love each other. And you know, today I can tell, 30 years later, that we have found a cure. People are living happily and healthy. We need to be thinking about hemp seed and many cancers and other things out here, cigarettes, that's causing a lot of the cancer, and we see young and babies and elders. So today, I thank God for the glory of HIV/AIDS, because being a black Southern young boy growing up, knowing how racism, homophobia, and genderism and no women's rights could enslave the mentality of the truth to hide down low. So I'm here today to tell you that we all need God's green pastures and great rainbows, because when it rains, we get those, the trees, rainbows on fruits and vegetables. And it's just a time that he knew that the love that people had for each other, whether they were male or female, same or opposite, was very important to nurturing and bringing more roots up, be like a tree planted by the sea. So my experience with AIDS is reading about it first in the Edmond and chat back in the 80s or 70s, that this was a terrible disease killing gays in San Francisco and New York City. But I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I knew that we traveled and we visited discos, and so that wasn't really true, but that was the assumption. So we heard more homophobia preachings. This was what God had created for us, to kill off the homosexuals and lesbians, which is pretty much a joke today, isn't it? But I think leaving Arkansas, going to San Diego was amazing. Well, I went to Chicago before San Diego, and AIDS was a hush hush there. Sex was a hush hush there in Chicago. Before I was kind of like made my mind up to be asked to leave, to go out of the city, because I feared for my death there, my life there, because I had relatives thought I was the first gay person in Chicago in the 80s, because they'd seen me on the parade, on the television at the gay parade. So I knew homophobia, and even though they were a big city, they had never seen gay people before, my relatives in Chicago. And my brother had died there in January 26 from a gunshot from a mental health woman. So I knew things could happen, and you didn't trust too many neighborhoods if you didn't know them in Chicago, traveling back and forth in the night. It was something, being gay there was not a nice city to be in. I still remember wanting to stay out in Harvey, the suburbs where Jermaine Stewart lived. Instead of in the inner city, I was afraid of the city because they was definitely kind of like ungay friendly. So I would leave Chicago after my aunt had said I had a relationship with a man in her basement after she gave me some rubbers to say use to calm, and I thought she was encouraging me. But it turned out to be that it was like a thing to see would I have sex with a man to become really exercise some homophobia. And so I left and I moved to San Diego with my sister right after the Super Bowl of Doug Williams and Denver played there with those 50 black baby grands and 50 whites at the arena there in Jack Murphy Stadium. So I arrived in San Diego, and it would be my second face that I would see with AIDS. I didn't see AIDS. I had seen AIDS in Little Rock, Arkansas. I had never seen the face of AIDS in Chicago. I wasn't long enough, and I think they were very homophobic. They was getting anyone with AIDS out of Chicago when I got there. So coming to San Diego, I would see this second person who has AIDS, living with AIDS, but not talking about it. She was a beautiful black empress of San Diego, and I was seeing her go down from big curvy hips to being very skinny. The same thing I had seen Rock Hudson and one of my love friends in Little Rock, Arkansas, who was married to another man, of course. You are now being recorded. So then I would see her and she would go down. Then many guys in the Navy were being rejected, not sad enough to be back in the Navy because they would find out they were positive or they were gay. They could put you out, the NIS could pick you out whether you were gay or positive. And it was seeing people doing horrible things like killing themselves, shooting themselves, doing drugs to blow their brains out, go to LA, get drugs to come back. So did you think I wanted to be tested? I had to get the test from this gay doctor up in Hillcrest, told me to get tested, and I would never go pick it up because I didn't really want to know because I was seeing people around me leave. So it wasn't until I helped a guy who was homeless, not homeless, he was anti-houseless, he had moved there, he was HIV positive with AIDS, had about 60 medicines. I helped him come back to San Francisco to St. Mary's. Marcus Gardner, I love you. He gave me a reason to make it here to see San Francisco for the first time. Because I was going to move to New York. So I was coming here for 3 days and then moved to New York City. And I got a job with the Giants. And it was a great city. It was probably March or right before my birthday, May. It was March or April. And right after the earthquake. So it was 90, March or April, 90. And this was a place that I seen going to the hospital at St. Mary's and him getting his care, HIV care out there was a learning method, and I didn't know who I was at that time. And sooner or later we met a woman named Donna who was in the shelter from Eureka who took him off of some 30 of those pills, and his eyes went down. And I started to bring in a miracle of what drugs could do and couldn't do when his eyes went like from that to that. So I knew I was learning. My learning was on. Then I would get the book about the GNC. I'll tell you about the side effects of medicines. And so Marcus and I separated. I would start working for the Giants, and I would wear a little red ribbon, and a lady would see me and tell me I couldn't wear it, and I thought she reported me that I was positive working. I was scared. I started like stretching myself, and I got sick. And then I would come out. They never fired me. Then they was like, we would have the first World AIDS Days game, and that was so beautiful. I would get to make the red ribbon with Walton House at the Candlestick. We started bringing the first baseball. We brought baseball into fighting until there was a cure, and that was a great day in my life. Excellent, wonderful day to be a San Francisco native and dealing with HIV and AIDS. And then the 49ers eventually did it. The many teams around the league embraced the cure bracelet. And I guess that would have been after 91, because after 90, because it was 90 when I found out. I finally went and got my results. Donald was here from Seattle. I was living in North Beach at the Golden Eagle, and I go to 1730 or 1732 mission and find out that I'm positive, and I didn't have anyone to really talk to with me that day. The lady who gave me my diagnosis started crying. She was a married woman from Oakland, and I was like, whoa. And I'd seen where I was living in North Beach, and I went into this kind of unconscious hibernation, isolation, to then I started doing the drugs was around, and I seen this, but thank God there was a group called Brothers Network, and a guy named John Brisbane, Steve Johnson, Reggie Poorman, Reggie Williams, that I was introduced to, and I got to learn how to see who we were and what we were dealing with in a very early age. And that proves to be very valuable today, that I learned so much from people who share what they were going through and their successes, their failures, and their thrives. And I never was afraid from there on out, because I didn't want to be afraid anyway. I knew it was not a sense to kill us, because you simply love your brother or your sister. You know, it's not ever been that. And although a lot of us had to bear that ritual and those ridicules from our own people and many others, so I'm in San Diego now, and I know I'm positive. For the first time ever in my life, I had got the test. I had never ever went by and got the test. What a great place to be, because people here were like, we were for each other to win this thing out or take care of each other. And I just think about how great that is, because we couldn't have did it in LA that much, or San Diego. We was too close to where Reagan had been living, and people, personalities, and what they believe in, perspectives were definitely influenced by those things. And I always say God's green pastures, great rainbows. God's green pastures, great rainbows. When it rains, you get green pastures and rainbows. Me and Twinkie Winkie, defense rounds. So I've did so much being positive since 90, you know, and I mean, California, I just have seen so many people come here and live, leave, come back around, up and down, with love and support and medicines and hope and nurture with meals, some open project hand, massages, the hospice, the matriarch, our great, the memorial out in Golden Gate is so beautiful. The World AIDS Day is my favorite day. I love it that God made it before Christmas. You know, December 1st, a day, 24 days before Christmas. Thank God for medical marijuana. I don't think I would have probably been a big medical marijuana user had not been medically 215 and 96. It's been like great in my recovery, healthness and wholeness. I cook it and eat with it. Oh yes. And now we have 18 states and one district, Columbia, with medical marijuana rights. And it's going to save them a lot in their sales and their tax. They need that type of income. But we want to always make this crop go to people's hands and grow. They should always be able to grow or go to big warehouses or buy their dispensers, or either the cigarette business. The Morrison is getting into it to it also. So we don't often want to just be something that is taxable like a cancer. We want it to always be naturally grown at Safeway, Whole Foods, you name it, Rainbow Groceries, Walgreens. It should always be available at any organic places because it's from God's earth, And the idea that it took AIDS to really free many of our isms in this country and world is a godsend. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Don't let the church of the poison mind destroy you before your spirituality stands up. No religion's gonna get me down, 'cause I believe we can fly. Like our love will stand tall as the trees, 'cause there's a rainbow over here for you and me. So it's amazing that we have been, like Bear Rustin said, that LGBT people would be the chosen civil rights people. If they would have remembered that in the 63, we would be way ahead of where we are. But thank God we're catching up and we're here today. And I always say God's green past the rainbows. And the AIDS today, I was seeing where we went from no hair, bones, wheelchairs, skeleton-like bodies, to buff, football, basketball, ballet, boxing, skating, swimming. It's a testament of God's greatness that He has every cure. He knows the cure. He is the cure. And that we can go on with life and take on other challenges and objectives. AIDS to me has been a miracle medicine, sin, experiments, journey, and I would love for more people to preach that, just as like Rose Bowl Parade this year when we had the black female minister marrying the couple, the first California couple. It was a signal of a change that we cannot no longer have people taking a pulpit and bully people about God's chosen people. And AIDS is one of God's chosen people, and we know this time after time. We see it, the history of AIDS, from me coming from Southern hospitality, traveling to the East Coast, coming to the Midwest values, coming all the way here to California, dreaming to this West. It's absolutely amazing how this course and courage has encountered all humanity, whether it's Buenos Dias, Buongiorno, Bonjour, Ohio, Yosan, Josan, Cheerios, Guten Morgen, Aduba Uto, Salam, Marge, Good Morning America, Frosty Flakes, The View, because no matter what, we know that our love is stronger when we invest in it and we nurture it. And I think AIDS has always been about love, someone trying to get love, not being loved, and then finding out that you're going to have to love yourself in the end to be successful. If you don't love yourself, then it's going to be hard to get to high plateaus. Like when I got here and after earthquake, 89 or 90, the girl was singing, "When You've Been Blessed, Pass It On," by Pat LaBelle at Glide Church, a transgender woman. Just like last night, it's Harriet Tubman birthday, March 10th, 1820. Last night we sang Laverne Cox, "Am I a Woman?" The first transgender African American singer who is speaking about what it is to be a woman, and working with trans and gays and lesbians, everyone, the whole world, on different things, genderizing, because AIDS affect a lot of people who are gender variant. You know, we don't have that place. Just as I, as a black gay man, had come, here I am still living. So many of my friends and acquaintances that I haven't seen in 25 years. I can't wait to go back to Chicago, San Diego, Arkansas, and Philadelphia, and Louisiana to see people who are still there. Many think that I am possibly dead, but I am living. You know, I'm dead living. And so I just think the gift that I asked him when I was very young to always protect me and lead me, whether it was bullying, homophobia, racism, abuse, or neglect. You know, these things have been part of my DNA makeup, and I've always made it through it, been persistent, knowing that even this here would be a way that God put something on my shoulders, that he was willing to help me stand up and be counted and be a soul that could testify and tell the world that it's always good to know that our source come from with all the green pastures and the rainbows come from with up. And I want to make sure this dedication is in memory of Oscar, Trayvon, and Jordan, and the young man out on the T-train who was shot from the transfer. But today I get to live. I want to thank Arthur Ashe. I want to thank Rock Hudson. Thank Ryan White, Elizabeth Taylor, Michael Jackson. Oh, and Shirley Ralph, the great black woman. Oh my gosh, thank that woman. And so many much more. The old lady who started Open Hand, my doctor at Tom Waddell Clinic, you know, from St. Mary's to Tom Waddell Clinic, Dr. Scott, Robert Scott from Oakland, first great black male doctor we ever had to take on AIDS, and he did a great job. We love you, Dr. Robert Scott. I didn't get to be a doctor, but I got to be an admirer and a mentee. He's a mentee to me. And I want to thank people who left me. Vincent from Oakland, what a great man. He used to throw great sponsors for us to be ourselves, you know. I'm just so glad to be living, and that I know that I'm still living and bringing. You know, there was a guy moved there to San Diego from San Francisco, and he met me at West Coast Production. He proposed to me in front of my sister that he wanted to take my spirit and live through it. And then, so I said, okay, get married. He said, I'll buy you a car, and he bought a condominium, and he needed to be in warm weather and get out of the Bay Area where he was around also the environment, the men, the people that's somewhere over in TL. So I noticed that when we went home that his family came in to tell us that we could not be together, and he gets his gun and tell them to leave us alone, and they said, you all can't be here at his place doing this here, that's not accepted. But I think they kind of pretty much wanted some of his inheritance, and they was going to take care of him, and he was planning on leaving things to me, and I'm like, I don't know how this is happening, but God, if it can happen, it's okay. But I didn't really want to stick around for violence, you know. And of course, he was great about living through me, and said that he needed to do that in his last days because he had had a terrible life in relationships in San Francisco with men who had how he ended up with IV people becoming positive. So I understood that. Oh, it's done. You are now being recorded. It said done. And it says done now. God's Green Pastor Rainbows. You're now being recorded. It's done. And so I just think AIDS for me has been a blessing, because when I have dealt with so much, I have probably had more homophobia and bullying in my life than I had probably racism right up in front of my face. So that's been one of the curses of my life, is to deal with sexual harassment or sexual acceptance, whether it's xenophobia, racism, homophobia, classism. This last 6 or 7 years here in San Francisco has been quite a down on you when there's so much freedom of us out here. That I think we need to make sure that we are paying attention to make sure people are living stigma and free of ism of your sexuality, of being yourself, from the trans world to the gay to the straight, to everyone should be able to be themselves indoors as well as outdoors. So I know that AIDS has been one of those breakers of everything in our world. And I hope that this is something that you can use, that I know AIDS is really a gift and a blessing from God. We have many doctors who know more about medicine and health today than we have ever known, you know. So thank you for coming to the generations. This is like generations to tell and to teach and share with generations. That's how I'm here, because it was generations who informed me in San Francisco what we were dealing with, right, in a one-on-one way, you know. So, Generation HIV 101, God's Green Pots of Great Rainbows.